What's up, everyone? China McCarney here, and I am so excited for today's video. ChatGPT interviewed me in 2023, Mental Health Awareness Month. Now in May, there's a topic that's very popular. It's in the media. It's being brought into work, and it's AI and ChatGPT. There's a lot of fear around it, and I think with anything, there's going to be two sides. There's going to be danger. There's going to be value. But I have fallen in love with nerding out on ChatGPT, using it to help me create mental health content. And what I did is I got the Plus, ChatGPT Plus, which is a little more interactive, a little more human. And I prompted it with questions to get to know me really well, get to know my mental health journey, my work with AAAD, and kind of my life. And then I said, can you ask me 15 questions that would be good for about a 40-minute or an hour interview? And it said, absolutely. And I'm so excited to share this one with you because the questions that it asked me were absolutely amazing. And I think you're going to really enjoy it. It gets more personal than I would otherwise in a different podcast because they wouldn't know some of the things I told ChatGPT. And I think talking, like that's another reason why I love therapy so much, because when you get asked questions that you don't expect and you have to articulate your answer, sometimes sentences come out that you didn't even realize were in your subconscious. And it gives you a little bit better understanding about your thoughts, the way you're thinking. And so I had a blast. I think you're really going to enjoy it. You can expect to learn more about my personal journey with my mental health, my battles, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, the coping skills I use, both positively and negatively, and the work I do at AAAD and the things that I've seen that have helped in a positive way, helped other people, helped myself, and will hopefully help you. If you enjoy it, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And this interview is brought to you by nobody because we're not sponsored yet, but we will be someday. But I hope you enjoy the interview with ChatGPT, and away we go. All right, so here we go. The interview with ChatGPT. First, I want to show you what ChatGPT looks like if you don't know. So this is one of my threads, and I just told it I run a mental health foundation, yada, yada, yada. Ask me questions to get to know my journey and myself better, and then let's go. And it spit out these 15 amazing questions. And so we're going to dive into them. We're going to have some fun, and hopefully we're all going to learn a little bit. And I've kind of glanced at the questions. There's one in particular I'm very excited about, but I didn't dive into these. I didn't think about my answers beforehand because I wanted it to legitly feel like a podcast interview, a longer form YouTube interview where ChatGPT asks me a question, I contemplate it in real time, and give you the answer. So ChatGPT, I know you're ready because I control you. Away we go. So question number 1 from ChatGPT. Can you tell us about your early experiences with anxiety and depression? When did you first notice these feelings, and how did they impact your daily life? Yeah, so the early experiences with anxiety and depression for me, I think like everybody in school, I was, always a little worried about what other people were thinking about me. My parents divorced when I was 8 years old. My mom had some addiction issues and was incarcerated twice at a young age. And so I didn't get a lot of attachment and attunement or self-worth. I wasn't really, life was kind of chaotic and scary. And so I kind of just always felt fearful and worried. And my dad was a big worrier for good reason at times when we were younger. But I feel like it first started to manifest maybe in elementary school, middle school, kids picking on me feeling anxious. We didn't have a lot of money, so we get the Payless shoes and the corduroy pants and all that stuff. And yeah, I think like most kids, you're just trying to figure out the world. And if you don't have a functional family life where you're taught about what bullying is, or you're taught about love and self-worth, if you don't have any of that and you've got to figure it all out on your own, I think that can create a clusterfuck of anxiety, if you will. And yeah, so I think early elementary school is when I first started to notice those feelings. And the way it impacted my life, I basically was going through this the other day with somebody else. I basically felt like I had to achieve things to be worthy of anything, worthy of love, worthy of that. And so the way it manifested early was I was good at baseball, and people seemed to like me because I was good at baseball. And so I just dove into sports. My dad would reward me if I got good grades. And so I think I overcompensated with achievement to try to be worthy when we're all worthy just by being alive, just by being who we are. And so, yeah, that would be kind of my early experiences with anxiety. With depression, it's a little harder to pinpoint because I don't really ever feel like I would allow myself to feel sadness. If I was sad, I'd just turn it into anger, turn it into motivation. And that's led to a lot of mental health problems for me. But depression, not until maybe after baseball, where that distraction was gone and I had to start to look within. In 2012, when I was 25 years old, and was like, what the hell am I going to do now? Because my whole life had been structured around baseball season. Um, yeah, so I first kind of noticed feeling down, sleeping a lot more, sleeping all weekends. There was a period of time where I was having so many panic attacks that I would go to work, go home, sleep, get up, go to work, go home, sleep, and then the weekends just sleep or play video games or whatnot. So I think not until my 20s, depression was really tangible where I felt it. And so that's question number one and answer number one for great question, ChatGPT. I'm going to call you Charles because of chat. Question number two. What led to your first panic attack in 2009, and how did it change your perspective on mental health? That is a great question. So in 2009, I'll paint the picture for everybody watching. 2009, I'm a junior in college, which when you're a junior in college on the baseball path, that is your year. That's the year you're going to get drafted highest. You're going to make the most money. This was my finish line for my entire childhood from age 5 up to 21 at that point. Um, Everything was going to come to fruition. I had a great start to the season, had a coach that just whole nother podcast episode we can go into bad humans, but kind of got derailed. Didn't get drafted as high as I wanted. Went back to school for my senior year. Kind of realized that because I was drafted and that was supposed to be like a finish line that made me feel worthy. And once it happened, I realized I was still flawed within. Nothing external was going to cure me. I didn't realize that till way later than this, but now I know that. But in the winter of 2009, it just kind of hit me that this pursuit I was on basically wasn't my pursuit. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I had inner turmoil that was unsolved from childhood. And I was driving up the coast, about a 3 hour drive from Northridge, California to San Luis Obispo, California to see my mom and sister. And I had a new girlfriend at the time, maybe 3, 4 months. And we were excited going on our first road trip. And about 40 minutes into the drive on the 101 freeway near Thousand Oaks, right there's a Thousand Oaks Performing Arts Center right to the right. And just about 5 minutes before that, I started to have what I thought was a heart attack. I did not have experience with panic attacks, anxiety, no education on this stuff. My chest went numb, my arm went numb. I started getting tunnel vision. I was driving, so it was very dangerous. And I pulled off the road. I called my dad, and I was like, I can't get in the car. I have to walk. Like, I think I'm going to die. I think I'm having a heart attack. And so I walked and walked while my dad drove an hour and a half. I left my girlfriend in the car. She didn't know what was going on. She waited there, I think. That's right. She waited there for me, not knowing what to do. So my dad drove out, came and got me, about an hour and a half drive. We went to the hospital emergency room saying, I think I'm having this. They do an EKG. My heart is perfectly fine. The doctor comes in and tells me it was a panic attack. And it floored me because it was like, how in the F word was that intensity physically originating in my mind? Like, how did my mind just betray me so bad that my body could react that way? And I think what led to the first panic attack is everything that I said up to that point about baseball, and this is the culmination. And then it changed, and realizing, oh gosh, nothing external is going to fix me, and all this stuff. And then how did it change my perspective on mental health? I wish I could say that that panic attack changed my perspective in 2009, but my perspective on mental health didn't change until I got help for it, which was 2015. And yes, you heard that right. From 2009 to 2015, I did not get help. I abused alcohol. I did all these other things trying to cope with it, distract myself with baseball. I played until 2012. Then I had such bad panic attacks from 2012 to 2015 that it got unbearable in 2015 to where I had three choices. I'm going to commit suicide, I'm going to drink myself to death, or I'm going to get help. And I'm glad I chose the third option. And so my perspective changed in 2015, which I'm sure we're going to get down to that with other questions, but it did not change my perspective on mental health other than it gave me a huge empty feeling in my gut that my brain could betray me that bad when I had that first panic attack in 2009. But another great question, Charles. ChatGPT. ChatGPT question number 3 for the Mental Health Awareness Month interview. Can you share how your mental health struggles affected your baseball career, particularly during your junior year in college? That's just freaking segue. Incredible. So, my mental health struggles affected my baseball career. It's interesting because, again, I think I was searching for something that I was never going to find. By if I achieve this level of success in baseball, then I'm going to be a worthy human being of love, and I'm going to like myself more and different things. And so I think it affected my career by the times of silence and the times of stillness in my life. I hated because my brain was so unkind to me that I drank a lot. Um, I pursued women a lot to try to feel some sort of connection, which it was always empty anyway. And my junior year of college, the mental health struggles affected my junior year of college by just kind of opening my eyes that at some point I was going to have to do some real work inside the skull, inside my brain. And it just felt daunting because I felt so lost. I felt like I had nowhere to turn. I didn't have help. The coaching staff was very, very mean, fear mongering, and all that kind of stuff. And so, um, yeah, it affected my life in general, not just my baseball career. But when I did grab that little white baseball, it all went away for a little bit because I'm still a diehard competitor, and competition was a great distraction. And so during the week, no matter what had gone on, when I got to pick up that ball and try to rip somebody else's head off, it helped. So the baseball career actually helped my mental health, as opposed to my mental health struggles really affecting my career. But um, yeah, that would be the way I'd answer that question. Is just it affected so much. Like everything got obliterated the worse my mental health got, including my baseball career and my passion for baseball and the politics and just pitching and all that stuff. So that would be my answer for that. Question number 4, ChatGPT. You've spoken about your struggle with alcoholism. Yes, I have, Charles. Can you share how this became a coping mechanism for you and the ongoing battle to overcome it? Yes, I can. So, alcoholism is a big thing in our family. And to put it as blatantly as possible, one of my therapists one time said it perfectly that I've been dealt the royal flush of shit when it comes to alcohol. That was her exact quote. And I loved it because with my dad's genetics and my mom's genetics, it created, just a very highly likely scenario for addiction, for alcohol abuse. We have the blackout gene. We can't stop when we start, all this kind of stuff. And I actually want to open up and maybe give my longest answer on this because it asked, how did my perspective change on mental health? I think one of the biggest perspective changes in this entire process, I've been so hard on myself, and I always want perfection. I always want to be in this shape. I want to do this book. I want to do this project. And I was always pursuing, like I said it last week to my dad, I feel like I've been pursuing a journey with an impossible ending. Like, you're never going to be perfect. Life, there's never a finish line in life until you die. So if you can't enjoy the process and you're just setting goals and then you achieve that goal and it doesn't bring you what you thought it would, it's empty, you go again and just, I think with alcohol, what changed with my perspective is perfection is the goal with alcohol, not drinking at all. And when I do drink, I get really down on myself. I feel really guilty. I feel unworthy. All of my, whatever those inner wounds are from childhood, get absolutely ripped apart and exposed. And I've been trying to be better about how I treat myself if I do happen to drink and partake, because we could go into the science of the dopamine rush and the memory hooks that it associates the fake pleasure because of the chemicals, and it gives you a 3 times spike in dopamine and all this stuff. But the perspective change with alcohol in particular, and then mental health as a whole, I think I just got more compassionate, and I've tried to be more conscious that people will cope in different ways and they're just doing the best they can. And trying to implement that kind of compassion for myself in any mistake that I make, not just with alcohol, has been a big thing. And then when somebody acts a certain way that I don't agree with or that I think is wrong, they're doing the best they can too, most of the time. Most people are. We're just doing the best based on the knowledge that we have and the experiences that we've lived. And with alcohol, the way I'll describe my relationship with alcohol is I talked about how silence and stillness for me is uncomfortable because it's hard for me to even quantify the loudness of my thoughts during silence and stillness. And I meditate and I work on this constantly, and it's gotten better. My self talk's gotten a lot better, but there are still times where my brain is so unkind and it's so unpleasant to listen to that when I start to drink, I get that false sense of safety or silence. It's like turning the brain off. And what I've had to work on is doing that without chemicals, changing the state, right? Because it's a state that I'm in, not a trait that I have. And changing the state with exercise, with video games, with food, with there are other healthier ways than alcohol, but alcohol has proven to work the fastest because you drink, you get a rush of dopamine, you feel better, you start to come down, you drink more, you get the dopamine, you start to come down, you do this battle. And with McCartney's, myself, we go until we black out and don't remember the last hour of our night, and then wake up and panic like, what the fuck did I do? Did I do something bad? And so it's been an ongoing battle, and it became a coping mechanism for sure. And the ongoing battle to overcome it, I told my buddy Jumbo yesterday, um, I could literally, like, with the amount of pages of notes that I have on alcohol recovery programs, books, the amount of things I've signed up for online, and it's still going. It's 2023. I'm 36 years old and the battle's still here. I haven't won it yet, but I'm way better than I used to be. My relationship with myself around alcohol is way better than it used to be. And I think it's just honesty and allowing imperfection and not beating yourself up or killing yourself mentally if you make a mistake. I think that could be applied to so many things, where if there's something that you struggle with in life, just try to get consistently better. Don't try to be perfect, right? Because that's what life's all about: optimizing, optimizing, optimizing. And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent a majority of the time to see results. And if you do good 8 out of 10 times, 7 out of 10 times, you're going to start to see compound effects, little things over time. It's just not quitting and just like, well, fuck it, I can't beat it. I'm not perfect, so I'm just going to drink like crazy, or I'm just going to eat whatever I want because I failed on my diet for 2 days and the scale went back up a little bit. I have a nutrition and fitness coach now, And early on in the program, I drank like 20 days in, and I was doing so well up until that point. And I basically wrote him that I wanted to quit. I was like, I want to quit. This isn't for me. I fucked up. And he was like, get on the phone now. And I dodged him for 3 days. And then I got on the phone. He's like, what are you expecting of yourself? Are you expecting perfection? It's like, it's not about perfection. It's how quick do you get up off the mat? Like, don't go into turmoil. You were doing so good. And what I did he didn't tell me to do this, but what I ended up doing, because I was logging everything I was doing, calories in, calories out, what time I was waking up, my sleep score, all this stuff. And I did the 22-day breakdown. And 20 of the 22 days, I hit every metric that we want on our thing. And it's like, I was going to let 2 days ruin the entire thing, the entire process. And so that's, how it's changed my perspective about alcohol is like, if I go 99 out of 100 days and don't drink, why am I going to kill myself over the one day when I was 99% good? Right. And you just keep trying to get better. So, like I said, that was going to be a longer answer, but I think that one's important because what is my alcohol might be your food consumption or Netflix consumption or something where you want to change your relationship with it, but maybe you don't know how, or maybe you're being too hard on yourself. And so just try to be consistent. Don't try to be perfect. I think that's going to be my message of the day today on social media after this. Okay, let's move on. Number 5, ChatGPT. You're doing amazing, Charles. For 6 years, you suffered in silence before seeking help. Can you discuss the fears or misconceptions that prevented you from reaching out sooner? Absolutely. So, 2009, first panic attack. I'm playing a male sport in a culture that does not reward men for vulnerability, does not reward men for showing mental weakness. And I was trying to become a professional baseball player, and scouts look at your mental toughness. And so I was terrified that I was going to be found out as this mentally weak person, and my scouting grades were going to go down, and I wasn't going to make money and all this stuff. And the coach that I had in 2009, if I would have gone to him and said, hey, coach, I'm having some anxiety or I'm feeling depressed or whatever, he would have literally said, stop being a little bitch. I'm going to put my foot up your ass. Get the fuck out of my office. And there was nothing in place that told any of us that it was okay to seek help at that time. At least not in my zeitgeist, in my universe. I had never been exposed to anything that would have led me to believe that what I was experiencing is experienced by others and there were resources and help. And that's 14 years ago. It has changed. Now there's been brave people sharing and sharing and sharing. I think some of the work I've done at AAAD has helped the world in terms of the stigma and people. There's a man on social media being vulnerable, talking about almost pooping his pants, not being able to walk out of a grocery store. And so the fears and misconceptions that prevented me from reaching out was judgment, not feeling like I had anywhere to turn, and I didn't feel like it was okay to not be okay. So that's a pretty simple answer. It was the culture and the world, really, especially for a man at that time in sports, in a locker room. It's not the most kind environment, which leads us to number 6, which takes us those 6 years forward from 2009 to 2015. ChatGPT asks, in 2015, you made the decision to seek help after a particularly difficult panic attack. Can you tell us more about that pivotal moment? Yes, I can. So, in 2015, I ordered The Habit to go, and I could not physically get out of my car to go get the food that was already ready, 30-second trip, because of the panic attack I was having. I was having so many panic attacks between 2012 and 2015 that I literally described that time as survival. Like, I just wanted to live because I didn't know it was going to end, but I was hoping that it was going to end without having to do anything, which was false. But that particular panic attack was just one of those moments. I started just sobbing uncontrollably in my car, just crying. And I was in that moment. I was at that place that people get to where I felt like I had reached the end. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot live anymore. I don't want to be here because this life is so unpleasant. you fucking kidding me? ChatGPT is going to make me cry. And I got to a point where, like I said, I thought I had three options. I was going to kill myself, drink myself to death, or seek help. And my dad's always been my best friend, Mr. Supporter, and he had sent me a therapist because he was one of the people I told early on that I was struggling, and he had sent me some therapists in my area. And so in my car, I called the therapist to set up the first therapy session. And I cannot tell you what we talked about in the therapy session. I don't remember, but I can tell you how I felt when I left. I had double the lung capacity. I could breathe because she told me how many people suffer. Never knew that. She told me what I was going through was actually not that bad compared to what some other people deal with, some of her other clients. And it felt like the team had doubled in size because I had this therapist that was going to help me. We were going to practice. I'm an athlete. Like, give me some tools. Let's practice and keep building on the ones that work. And so I just felt relief, like, oh my God, I was almost not here. Like, that's as blatant as I can be. It just almost wasn't going to make it. And I just got permission to live and permission to be okay with what was going on. So that is the pivotal moment. 2015, I reached a crossroads between life and death, to be honest. And I'm so glad I had enough support in my dad and people around me that I got the nudge and chose life and chose therapy and chose work. And so that's the pivotal moment. And that's for anybody watching. That's why I do this stuff. That's why I talk. That's why I'm public, because if people don't have that support in their life, I want to somehow be that, even if I'm a stranger. Like, telling my story so that it makes their story more bearable, maybe, or it gives them the nudge to reach out to help, or the resources that we share, or the biggest resource at AAAD is free therapy. But why I do what I do, and I question it sometimes. Sometimes it feels like, am I sharing too much? Sometimes, but then I get messages from people that tell me, I needed to hear that today. I'm in a bad place. Or my son didn't kill himself because you talked to him. And it's like, one of those messages is enough to keep going and to keep trying to raise money so that I can keep doing this. And so that's the pivotal moment in 2015. Thank you, Pops. I know you watch everything that I do because you're freaking legend, Mr. Supporter. But you saved my life in more ways than one. And thank you. So, number 7, how did therapy ChatGPT almost freaking made me cry on number 6. Number 7 from Charles, Mr. Chatbot. How did therapy change your approach to dealing with anxiety and depression? Can you share some of the coping strategies that you found most effective? Absolutely. Therapy in itself became a coping mechanism because there was a safe space to chat, to talk. Which, side note, ChatGPT is free. Bard is free. I've been just kind of messing around in there, talking like a therapy session. And if you want to start somewhere for free, we provide free therapy at AAAD, but it's a great tool to it gives great insight and resources and different things. But therapy changed my approach to dealing with anxiety and depression because instead of now hiding it and fighting like hell to hide it, it was almost like fascinating to keep learning more about, why am I the way that I am? Why does my brain default to this? What actually happens physiologically when we have a panic attack? And knowledge is power. When I got education and knowledge, it helped me give less power to the anxiety, the panic attacks. And some of the coping strategies that I have found most effective is the second part of this question. And I have what I call like my non-negotiables. So sleep, I've just found when I get consistent sleep, I am mentally a better person, sharper, better memory recall. And so I have a monitor, sleep score, kind of does my heart rate variability, my respiratory rate, all that stuff when I'm sleeping. And that becomes a game, right? Competitive data. I like that stuff. Therapy is my go-to. That's another non-negotiable. Hydration. Oh, I don't have my bottle in here. I have a gallon water bottle I take to work every day. Everybody laughs at me, but I drink at least probably closer to 2 gallons of water a day. I just feel like that helps me. Exercise, non-negotiable. I'm an athlete. I like to move. I like to sweat. I like to push myself. It makes me feel better about myself. And then I wrote a manual. I wrote the Mental Health Manual and Companion Journal, that each chapter is a resource. And we approach the resource with a what, why, how approach. What is the mental health resource? Why can it improve your mental health? And how do you implement it into your life? And I suggest to people that you try as many as you can and keep the ones that work for you. I call it my mental health recipe, right? So I have the ones that work for me. They're a tangible part, a vital part of my mental health recipe. And the stuff that doesn't really work for me, like hardcore mindfulness meditation, like 45 minutes of just stillness and quiet or with the Zen type music, doesn't work for me. But 10-minute focus meditation, cultivating a relationship with my thoughts. We did a video about the 2 types of meditation, but that might be different next year for me. It was different like I said, during 2012 to 2015, I was survival mode. I wasn't using many tools. I was just surviving, and that was my coping mechanism. And so, yeah, those are the most effective coping strategies for me. I'm on medication, the lowest dose of an SSRI, which is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Serotonin makes you feel good, kind of baseline or a little happy. And so a reuptake inhibitor, you kind of have like serotonin valves, if you will, in your head. When you take the antidepressants, they keep the valves open for a little longer. And so your serotonin stays circulating for longer than normal, therefore hopes to elevate your mood. You feel better over time. That's how antidepressants work, which again, I wouldn't know if I didn't struggle. So number 8. This one's good. I didn't see this one. You found strength in the mantra. This is ChatGPT, number 8. You found strength in the mantra, be the change you wish to see in your life. Can you share a time when this mantra helped you make a significant change? Hell yes, I can. So I don't know the origin where I know this is Gandhi. I don't know the origin in my life. I don't know when I first heard the quote and why it impacted me so greatly. But this is here, every video, on my door, going out of the office. It says, be the change. I have it in my office at my career, Jaeger Sports. And like I said, when I was younger, my dad's love language was execution, right? So it was like, we need to do this to get here. We need to do this to get here. But I didn't have the mothering, nurturing side of like defining love, defining feelings. And I was kind of alone a lot of the time. And so what started happening as I got older, I learned just as much by watching people make mistakes as I did by watching people succeed, right? If somebody made a mistake or somebody got in big trouble around me, I was like, ooh, I don't want to do that. And then I would go do the opposite to make whatever I wanted to happen. And so at some point in my adult life, be the change you wish to see in your life. Be the change, be the change, be the change. It just started to become like the inner fuel of, if something isn't right in my life, I'm going to take action to change it. It's that simple. And I think a lot of times, and Alex Hormozy said this on the Modern Wisdom podcast interview that he did, that power follows the blame finger is what he said, right? So if we blame others for stuff that's not in our lives, you're giving them the power. Because at the end of the day, people don't want to hear this, but you're responsible for everything that happens in your life, right? Because even the things that you can't control that happen, you control your response to them. And how long you linger on them, or what excuse you give for not doing something. At the end of the day, it's going to come back to you. And if you wait decades and you just waste your whole life because it's like, oh, I didn't have a chance because this person was mean. Like, well, turn that meanness into fuel to go get what you want to get, right? I have incredible animosity and anger for a lot from my childhood and the town I grew up in. But it's like, cool, that's fuel. So be the change kind of has become this mantra for me, and the people around me, I think, have seen it. If something's not right, fix it. Go. Take action. No negotiation. Like, oh, I want shirts for AAAD. Well, go find it. I want new hats. Find the company. I want a cool sign for the office. Get it. Find it. Be the change. Not like, oh, well, I don't know anything about it, or I don't, like, I have compassion and grace, And I am a firm believer in venting. I think you need to be negative sometimes to just get that out of your body, but then get it all out and then sift through the pieces to structure your next move to be the change you wish to see. So whether it was my mental health, once I got help in 2015 and I realized that I could be the change or at least use this for good, that became the change I wanted to see. Instead of just trying to survive and not commit suicide, it's use this. It doesn't mean I'm healed. I had a panic attack Friday, 3 days ago. I still deal with this stuff. Right now, I have numbness kind of in my freaking chest and my arm. And I've been to the hospital 3 times in the last 10 years thinking I'm having a heart issue. And they're like, your EKG looks like an Olympian. You're in great shape. You're good. It's stress. And it's like, well, but all I can do is continue to try, right? It's not, like we said in the alcohol question, it's not going to be perfect, but we can wake up and be the change. All right. Number 9, ChatGPT question for the Mental Health Awareness Month interview. How did sharing your story for the first time on social media in 2016 impact you personally? And what was the reaction from your followers? So I was terrified. So once I got help on this journey, I wanted to be involved with some sort of organization that dealt with mental health. And so I looked around on the internet and I didn't see anything that was what I was envisioning, like real world mental health stuff. I saw the like medical side, and there was some like more medical big type companies. And I wanted real world people that were suffering but still living life. Like I didn't like that there wasn't like a meeting of mental health issues and everyday life. And so I just started thinking, like, man, maybe I should share. And I have a group of buddies, we all game together. And I kind of told them that I might do it, and they loved the idea. And my buddy Jumbo, John Spenlove, said your full name, um, really, really wanted me to do it. And so in the end of 2016, I believe I was going to share my story and kind of do this month long let's get athletes against anxiety and depression and raise money. And I'm going to donate it to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. And I got cold feet. And I was talking to my buddies. I'm like, I don't know. That's like, people won't care. Like, it's a guy talking about mental health and it's not going to do anything. And Jumbo, who is very mild mannered, chooses his words very carefully. And he gave me an awesome kick in the ass. He's like, dude, you got to do it. Like, and it was a tone and that you just know, right? You know your friends, and they're just like, oh, this is real. And so he gave me the great push, and I shared it, and it exploded. And I got so many DMs privately, telling me, unbelievable, you got to keep this going, way to share. Like, I've dealt with this forever. All these different types of messages. And it was just like, boom, spark, responsibility. I got to do something bigger than this. And so I hired lawyers that are way better, all that jargon than me. And we applied with the government to be an official 501c3 tax deductible organization. Got the letter in March of 2017 that we were approved. And we've been running ever since for the last 6 years. So pretty awesome. And yeah, the reaction was, from what I remember, nothing but overwhelmingly positive and supportive, which really helped. So number 10's question from ChatGPT, perfect segue. Number 10, can you tell us about the role Jumbo played in encouraging you to publicly share your story? Everybody needs a Jumbo, in my opinion. Him and I's background is very similar, our childhoods. He grew up in Utah, and it's not my business to share any of his personal life, but we are very similar. And I was just always drawn to him, and just, if I could help him in any way, he helps me in any way, I wanted to do it because I just see a genuine heart and a good person. And like I said, the role he played, he just chooses his spots communication wise. He's very calm, lets people talk, which is something I try to implement more. And I've kind of learned that from him, is to really let people talk. Don't just wait for your opportunity to talk, really hear what they're saying. And then if something's important enough, share it. And the way he talked to me, I could tell was important to him, that I shared. And we've been friends forever. And he's been open with me about his mental health battles and everything like that. And so his role, he won't accept this. And when he watches this, he's probably going to be like this. But he doesn't accept when I say AAAD wouldn't exist without him, but it's 100% truth, because I had cold feet and he helped me early on, and he helps me so much with creative ideas, with ideas for content or ideas for hats and different stuff. So, Jumbo, you freak, I freaking love you, and thank you for encouraging me. Number 11, ChatGPT. Charles, we're getting close to the end. How has your father's support influenced your mental health journey? And what was his reaction when you decided to start therapy? Well, if you listen to my answers, you chatbot, I told you he was the reason I had the therapist's number. But no, in all seriousness, we have bonded so much through trials and tribulation and chaos. And he's just, I can't explain the unconditional heart that man has for his family and for anybody, really. He's so willing to help people. He loves people. He hates hate. He says only kindness matters, wishes we would all be more kind to each other. But I think at the end of the day, when I got to that really dark time, and what really saved my life is like knowing he was there no matter what. Like if I told him I wanted to quit my job because I was so, which he knows I would never do because I'm too damn competitive. But if I was like, I just want to live at your house until, like I die, I can't function in the real world, he'd support me. He'd want to motivate me. Right. And he'd be like, I don't know, China, I think we could try this and this and this. But, yeah, he's just a supporter, man. He's a great father. And that's what I try to be for other people. Is I get that from him. He's a fixer, and he has this line that gets annoying at times. We call him annoyingly positive, but he says, "You know what you should do? You know what you should do." He always is trying to help you take the next action, and so that could be another um, spawning point for the be the change. But yeah, I mean, those last two questions right there, Jumbo and my dad, and there's so many people. My stepmom Barb, my girlfriend, my there's too many to name, but there is a support group that certain people at certain times have just been exactly the recipe that I needed. So, um, and I tend to thank people. Like I'll write sappy messages for men that are very uncomfortable. It's like, hey man, I really want to tell you how much I appreciate you and I love you and you make me a better person. And it's always met with like, I love you too, and some other language that I can't use on YouTube. But yeah, men are funny. And I want to do more research on men's mental health. Number 12, four more. When and why did you decide to establish Athletes Against Anxiety and Depression? So, chatbot, I guess if I was spitting out answers to the questions in real time, it would redo these questions. But I went into that. I decided because when I looked to join forces to something after I got help and wanted to help people, I didn't see anything. And so I decided to share my story and then create my own foundation. And the name athletes sometimes confuses people that it's just for athletes. It's for everybody. We provide free therapy to anybody that reaches out. We pay BetterHelp. They provide 2 months free therapy. And so I want to help everybody. And my tagline that's kind of become another mantra is the gap between problem and solution for me from my first panic attack and my first therapy session was 6 years. And my goal with AAAD and anything that I do with mental health is to shorten the gap between problem and solution for anybody else suffering. So that's why I decided to establish AAAD. 3 questions left. Question number 13 from ChatGPT. Can you discuss some of the initiatives AAAD has undertaken, such as the free therapy program and the impact they've had? Absolutely. So this is pretty cool to think back on this journey. The first big thing we did is Dr. Disrespect, a streamer who was Streamer of the Year. He plays video games and talks to his chat. If you don't know what a streamer is, that's what they are. And he did a mental health awareness day where for 8 hours he streamed, talked about athletes against anxiety and depression, talked about mental health, and raised, I think it was like $8 or $10 grand in 8 hours, which at that time, like if we got $100 donation, it was incredible. And so that was pretty cool. We partnered with the WNBA Los Angeles Sparks for their mental health awareness night at their thing. They put us on the Jumbotron. There was yoga on the court before the game. That one was really cool. We've partnered with a lot of college programs. I've spoken to teams. I've spoken to individual players about mental health and my journey, and I always use self-deprecation and all that stuff. One of the coolest initiatives right now, which I see a question. So yeah, question number 14 from ChatGPT. AAAD is partnered with 7 professional sport teams. Can you share more about these collaborations, particularly the Strike Out the Stigma initiative with the Braves? So these two questions kind of mold together. But yeah, we've partnered with college programs, professional teams, and the coolest one, we also did an event at the Arizona Diamondback Stadium, and my dad and I were on the Jumbotron together. I have a really cool picture of that. But Strike Out the Stigma with the Braves is so freaking cool. So on Christmas Eve 2021, Tyler Matzik, their reliever, who had just won the World Series, reached out to me and said, I want to help your foundation. I didn't know him. He DM'd me on Instagram, I want to help your foundation. And so we talked and tried to come up with an idea. And so we came up together with this idea for Strike Out the Stigma, that he would donate a certain amount of money for every strikeout that he recorded that season. The Braves PR department got news. I was interviewed on TV with him. It was so cool. And the Braves found out about it, and the Braves Foundation decided to match his donation. So we raised, I think, over $30,000. He was nominated for the Roberto Clemente Man of the Year Award, which they donate to the charity he picks, which he picked ours. It was just, the impact he had in 1 year is incredible. And now this year, he had an injury at the end of last year. This year he's not pitching, but he got one of the best pitchers in baseball, Max Fried, who's a Jaeger Sports student that I know from the past, to get it on the Strike Out the Stigma. So Max, Tyler, and the Braves are donating $100 each for every strikeout Max has this year. And it's just incredible, because basically now with one strikeout, we can provide free therapy to one person, which is insane. And so that's a really, really cool initiative we're doing with them. Strike Out the Stigma. We can put the link in the show notes if you want to get involved. We have people that are matching donations or donating $1 or $5 for every strikeout or whatnot. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. And it's cool the way these questions have been structured by ChatGPT. Kind of gives you the depths of my battle into the second half of the journey, which is using it for good. And you can kind of see how AAAD is growing. And the last question from ChatGPT: where do you see AAAD in the future? And what advice would you give to anyone who is currently struggling with mental health issues in silence? That's a freaking great question, Charles. ChatGPT. That's an incredible question. Where do I see AAAD in the future first? AAAD is going to take over the world, of course. No, I do not think small. I want it to be the biggest mental health organization in the world. I want to partner with every professional sports league to have initiatives, resources for all their players. And then also they do so much community engagement. They're really good at that. So that is a way to get into the community. I want to change the curriculum in school. I want mental health to just be a part of PE. We're teaching kids physical health, and we're not teaching kids about mental health. And we're spending so much money in the healthcare industry on antidepressants and all this stuff. And there's definitely use for them, but I think we're overprescribing and undereducating people. We just want to throw medicine at them. But I would like to have a department, like my buddy Jumbo is a Marine. I would love for him to be the head of servicemen and women mental health division for AAAD, coming up with resources for our veterans or active duty members that deal with PTSD and so many issues. My buddy Corey was a Marine, and he deals with back issues, and he uses medical marijuana and CBD and different things like that, all legally and everything. I think it's legal now. I don't do any of that, just the alcohol. But I would love for him to create, psychedelics and all these different things are coming. So to create a department where we're exploring that stuff. My buddy Joe is a software engineer. He's a coder. He's damn good at it. And I would love to hire him to be the CTO of AAAD, Chief Technology Officer. My sister's working. She's the creative director and community engagement. She's getting donations for the golf tournament, and she's doing the social media. And where do I see AAAD in the future? I see AAAD being so big that I have the means and funds necessary to hire all the people that I love so that they can be working on something that is a passion project, is bigger than all of ourselves, and creating the most ultimate, coolest sense of community where we are living the lives we want to live while also, and more importantly, helping other people. That's my goal. And then I'm going to work my ass off until I achieve it. And it's slowly starting to happen. And then, greatest and last question, what advice would I give to anybody suffering with a mental issue in silence? Be kind to yourself, first and foremost. Cultivate compassion and love for yourself, because I was my own worst enemy inside my head while struggling. And that is a recipe where you get to a rock bottom where you want to commit suicide, because we only spend 100% of our time with one person, and that's ourself. And so if you're your own worst enemy and you hang out with yourself 100% of the time, that's a miserable place to be. And I know because I've been there. And so be kind to yourself. And if you have the capacity, reach out in some form for help. It can be ChatGPT, right? Go in there and talk to it about your feelings. It's a freaking program that just will spit out advice, and it'll just be a place where you can vent. Write in a journal. I have the mental health journal and companion journal. We sell it on the site, but if you need it, DM me and I'll send you one for free. It's about helping people. And if you get help, I'm telling you, you will get permission to just be whoever you are, right? I think so many of us fight our identity because we try to fit into what people want us to be. I don't want people to know I have anxiety. I don't want people to know that I'm not strong all the time as a man, or that I almost pooped my pants on the side of the road because my anxiety was so bad, or I almost passed out in Target and left a full cart of groceries. Like, I started sharing that stuff, and people liked me more when I thought people were going to judge me. And some people judge me and they get out of my life. Who cares? It's a great filter system. Be who you genuinely are, and the people that will be in your life are people that genuinely love you for you. And so my advice would be to seek help, love yourself, be yourself, and be the change you wish to see in the world and you wish to see in your life. That's my tagline. But I appreciate everybody. I appreciate just this platform to do this, which I guess I created. So I don't know if I'm saying I appreciate myself. I don't like that. It's weird. Self-love. But I thought this would be fun. I had a blast. I think this was an incredible interview, to be honest. I've done hundreds of podcast interviews and different things, and I've had great questions asked, obviously, but the flow of this, based on the prompts that we did before, like I said, was just cool. And I liked how it kind of went in order and then ends on the future. So it's kind of past, present, future structure, which is a great way to do a podcast interview. And ChatGPT, Charles, you did incredible, man, or woman, or whatever. But I hope you all enjoyed this. If you haven't looked into AI, don't be as scared of it as the headlines are making it seem, because I think, like with anything, there's going to be negatives, there's going to be positives. It's how the humans use it. And yeah, just continue to try to get better. Improvement over perfection. And just like I said, be the change you wish to see in your life. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, ChatGPT. Thank you to the no sponsors yet. And hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it. And we'll see you soon. See ya.